Hello, good evening, everyone. Nice to have you all back again. Kinnari, would you like to make the main
Yes,
announcement for today?
yes. Hello, good evening, and welcome to our eighth webinar. Thank you all for making time and joining us. We have a little bit of an unfortunate news that our speaker for today couldn't join us due to some extremely unavoidable circumstances. We're looking forward to having Dr. Swati Popatwas again with us in our May webinar. Right. So apologies for that last minute shift. And thank you for joining nevertheless. We thought we should continue our dialogue rather than calling it off and postponing it fully. So Rishi and I, as the hosts for this webinar series, are here. We feel that it will be a nice interactive session that we can do with many of you who are joining the webinar for the first time, and those of you who've, of course, been engaging with us fairly regularly through the last many episodes. So thank you, and we look forward to a very fruitful and interactive session today. Uh, Rishi.
Yeah, thanks, Kinnari. So, yeah, it's very unfortunate that Dr. Swati Popat isn't able to join today, but we will definitely have her over soon. Uh, and as Kinnari said, we will make this into an interactive session wherein we continue to discuss what is very important for all of us. What we thought is we could take you down memory lane and talk about some key takeaways that we've had over the last over all the webinars that we've had so far. So we could go one by one, and I think we could start off with the first one, which we had with Dr. Uma Mahadevan Kinnari.
Yes.
So I think that was a very accelerating start to this series that we had with Uma ma'am covering the entire gamut of ECC related policies and various other government initiatives. From the very beginning till what till very recently as to what all has happened. Um, so how did you see it? What is the takeaway that you had from that first session that we had with Dr. Mama Devan?
Yes. Uma Mahadevan's session opened up the domain for us, right? And she was talking of scale, and quality, and various aspects that we need to look at when we look at early childhood care and education. The systemic potential of things. She cautioned us very well on saying where technology should be used and where not. I think a very critical component of that particular session was the dialogue between research and practice and academia and the public system that she tried to bring out. I think it set the tone for what we are looking at in terms of a large public system and a large population of young children, and therefore the caregivers and the teachers that we really need to look at and work with. Uma Mahadevan's session had several systemic level takeaways, and very specifically the message that it is the caregivers that and educators and Anganwadi workers and people who work with children that would really need to be the focus of a lot of work. And I think what she popularly says in many platforms as this decade is the decade of ECC, and how is it that we can then work in this domain. So
Yeah,
that for me that was a bunch of takeaways from that particular session.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was way back in November. It is 13th of
Yes.
November, right? So
Yeah.
we've come a long way. And those of you who missed it, of course, it's all there on our channel. You could get onto our website and look for it. You could get onto our YouTube channel and search for it, and you would be able to live through that which Kinnari just shared. And then the week after, or in the second one, we had Dr. Jigisha Shastri, and I think we kind of did a deep dive into some very interesting conceptual aspects. I'm sure a lot of you were really interested in, and I think that we also had a very engaging participation during Dr. Jigisha's session, and you would like to share some of the highlights on that, Kinnari?
Yes, again, I think over the last 7 episodes, we very systematically covered both the macro and the micro perspective. And Dr. Shastri, with her breadth of experience in the public sector, private sector, academia, and research, tried to really unpack what this idea of working with young children is. And a very interesting, enriching conversation we had with her on saying how individuals' experiences, her own experience as a child growing up, led her to thinking about children more systematically and getting into academia, and then doing a range of practice work that was possible. And I think each of our speakers really have had that personal note in all their lives, and the
Yeah.
way they have entered the domain and the profession itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a very senior bureaucrat starting off our series, and then we had a very senior academician doing our second one. And then for the third one, if you recollect, we had a pediatrician. We had Dr. Satish Pandya, very well known and respected, as well as a very senior pediatrician who came in to give a very different perspective to how we need to look at early years. What do you recollect from that one? That was again early
Yes,
December.
exactly. And I think, again, this dialogue, right, what we miss between educators, bureaucrats, academics, and pediatricians, all of us care for the young child at very different levels. And I think that conversation with Dr. Pandya was quite fascinating, to in a very simple way, to say what is it that we as adults around children really need to focus on, whereas that dialogue between education, development, and parent engagement need to happen. I think the elements of what he referred to as, uh, you know, there was a very interesting phrase that he left us with,
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
on looking at children, looking at uh, I'm trying to it somehow slips that particular phrase, but yes, that was again a enriching discussion that brought us to say that there is a lot of thinking that needs to happen, and children's health, well-being, and engagement, community engagement, which means in the immediate environment of children, that's something that is deeply interconnected. and
Yeah.
and a lot of questions around nutrition. I think our audience posed a lot of questions around nutrition, early obesity and its implications.
Right.
Yeah, so that session brought the connect in that sense between the caregiver and the child, and from a medicinal and a developmental point of view.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then we closed the year with Dr. Indumati Rao, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone knows her, and that was again another very well attended one. A practitioner come academician, and Dr. Indumati, we all know, has been striving in this domain for such a long time. In fact, in the very beginning, when she spoke about her own journey as to how unaware people were in terms of the importance itself of the early years for a child, and as to how through that then she is now trying to continue that awareness building at multiple levels through her CBR network. That again was another very interesting one. That was just before we took a break for Christmas. Um, what did you take away from that one with Dr. Rao?
Yes. So again, Dr. Rao's work spans, this spectrum of children, disability, and technology. So I thought that was a very interesting intersection that she tried to bring in her work
Yeah.
at scale. A lot of personal, like you said, the connect and the passion for a lot of senior educators come from their own personal stories. And that kind of brought disability differentiation into the fore, and how is it that we look at building inclusive environments and inclusive outlook towards children. So that was an important kind of a perspective that we built in that session. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that those were the ones that we did last year. And then we
Yes.
took a month's break and we came back by end of January with Miss Sunisha Ahuja giving us, in some sense, an international perspective. She brought in the work of UNICEF, and she spoke of as to what through UNICEF has happened in our country. And I think that again was a very good beginning we had when we came back this year.
Yeah. And interestingly, Sunisha in her position, right, like Uma Mahadevan in her position as a as a bureaucrat working and looking at state level systemic initiatives, Sunisha working very closely with the Ministry of Education, and how the shift is happening or thinking around how do you see foundational stage, what do you see as quality in foundational stage, how do you see the interconnects between the various and the scale, at the scale of both the public and the private sectors. I think, again, those of you who missed some of these sessions, it'll be nice if you can spend time, one after the other, looking at it. They really helped broaden our perspective from many dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One I missed, and somehow I, in my list also it's gone missing. We had a session also in the previous year with Mr. Mangal Pandey,
Oh,
right?
yes, very much. Yeah, you're right. And very interesting work of Key Education Foundation, and how their journey, the passionate journey of early years, how, why invest in young children, what are some of the programs that they offer at Key Education Foundation. I think that was, I mean, for young entrepreneurs to look at, who really want to make a change, and change which
Yeah,
has social relevance. I think Mangal's session really kind of hit that squarely, that it's
true.
possible to be a social entrepreneur in today's times, and especially exclusively focus on early childhood education.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, that came out really well in Mangal's session. And then we had in March this year Dr. Tara. And Tara ma'am, as many of us know, so many decades of deep experience. And I think the journey that she spoke of itself was so enriching. So many, aspects of the ECC domain coming in through her just narration of how or what she's done in the space. I think
Yeah.
was itself
Yes.
wonderful.
And with that, she also took us a very deep dive into nutrition and the connect between health, women's health, right? That a child's health is not something that really is the starting point. The starting point of this is that life cycle where it is the girl child and the woman and the nutrition and other social factors, and finally a healthy baby which is born, or a premature, or where are those points at which this nutritional aspects, and especially malnourishment, and several societal factors impact the quality of development that young children undertake. And she shared a very interesting life cycle approach. Again, we would urge that you really go through that to see where this nutrition development interlinkage really occurs, and what are some of those key ways to understand types of nutrition, nutrients, and what is it that we should be looking at as far as the systemic work around early years and nutrition is concerned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That really was what, in fact, she told us also that she would want to focus on, given the number of things that are there. She had, in fact, shared with us that that's what she's going to prioritize, when she's going to have our conversation. Yeah, I
Yeah.
recollect that. And then last month we had Miss Ashreen Kalra. We kind of, also got a perspective of the private earlier space, and how ECC happens, in the private sector. And so her deep experience with the clay preschools, daycare and preschools that the Clay Group runs, and that was very interesting. In fact, I think for both of us also who've not probably who are not so deep into that private sector and the challenges that they have, and what they're doing, I think many of it was very fresh insights when we spoke with Arshleen.
Yeah, that's true. I think Arshlin's conversation really opened that, that sometimes we tend to look at public as public, private as private, but what are those commonalities between both the
Yeah.
sectors? When we talk of quality, what does that really mean, right? And I think, again, for me, one of those very interesting points was the technology aspect, and how do you really use it in a very context specific way, and with the changing technological interface that our children are growing up with,
Yeah.
apart from, of course, their curriculum and teacher preparation and the scope of the domain itself. I think Ashlyn beautifully kind of unpacked that as well in her session. We also had, Rishikesh from Azim Premji Philanthropy, who took us through the child in vulnerable context, and what is that really kind of when we say children, when we say what are the laws and acts governing the well-being of children, welfare of children, where when we talk of street children, when we talk of children in slums, when we talk of children in institutions, what is the perspective, and how should what he focused on was how grant making or giving charitable philanthropic interventions in those spaces, what do they call for? So I mean, we've, in that sense, both between the private, the public, and the most vulnerable, we
Right.
did cover a gamut of things in these last 9 episodes, today being the 10th one that we are really talking on.
Yeah. Yeah, so on that note, I mean, that was a very quick walk down the memory lane. We started early November, and we are here late April, or at the very last day of April, and have looked at these various aspects related to ECCE, and tried giving all of you perspectives, insights of a variety, or as Kinnari said, gamut of things, and all just as important as the other. And hence we brought in people who have engaged with these issues for many years. And today our effort was to have another very well experienced and very well known personality within the ECC domain, Dr. Swati Popat, to have this conversation. And as Kinnari mentioned, unfortunately, due to really unavoidable circumstances, she's unable to join us. But then, as I shared, we're going to have her soon. We'll announce very soon through our channels as to what that date would be. We also thought that probably, Kinnari, it would be a good idea that we share what is it that we've also planned for our new ECC Masters program at the Azim Premji University. Of
Yeah.
course, we've completed enrollment. We are very happy to have very eager students who have enrolled and who have taken the offer of admission. And so we're all getting ready to launch this program come July 2025. And so everything is in place. And it would be great, I think, Kinnari, if you could walk us all down as to what is in store for those who have signed up for this 2 years master's program in ECCE.
Yeah. Yes. I shall try and project. 1 minute.
Meanwhile, please feel free to ask questions as always through our chat box, and we can also make it interactive. And that's really the idea of this session. We thought, though Dr. Popat was not available, we should have this conversation, share with you what we've done so far, what is upcoming at Azim Premji University, and interact with you.
Just give me 1 moment. I'm not sure where the presentations.
Yeah, I think some of you have asked this question of waiting to hear from Swati ma'am, and as I just shared, we are going to bring her to you very soon. And today she was unable to join us.
Yes. Yeah. 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 So thank you all for joining. Like we took you through the memory lane. Some of you who've been joining us so far have had a very small glimpse of this new program. I'll give you a little bit of an update on the kind of program and the university itself. As many of you know, Azim Premji University is a private, autonomous, not-for-profit university. We have two campuses, one in Bangalore and one in Bhopal. We offer several programs through the undergraduate, postgraduate, and continuing education programs for working professionals. Within ECC, we have been doing a gamut of work again, and I will take you through some of that. We thought since Dr. Popat is not with us, we spend time in speaking to you all about this particular new initiative that we have at the Azim Premji University. And we also take in questions. I mean, many of you are working teachers in the sector. What are some of those areas that you would like to explore more, right? Maybe you can give us those ideas through your chat comments today, which we can line up further. Yes, so here is this 2-year master's in ECC that at Azim Premji University we are launching. Our batch starts in July. Like all of us know, it is an audience which is already invested in early childhood education. So this may be a recap that a significant part of the young child's development, and especially the brain development, happens in the first 8 years of life. The rapid pace of development is something that is unimaginable, right? And early experiences, both positive and negative, have a very lifelong impact, right, in the way children grow up, develop as human beings. In India, our figures are over 154 million children under the age group of 6 years. And like we said, they are in the most vulnerable sections, and they are also among the 1% very elite children born with all privileges, right? So we have a spectrum where these 154 million children under the age group of 6 are. When we look at care and education, and we say windows of opportunity, right? The first 8 years, and when we say 0 to 8, right? Again, this term zero comes in again and again, but that really refers to the period before the birth of the child and from the time of conception. So again, if you go to Tara ma'am's session, you will see how this period 0 is defined, right? And what are the critical aspects of that that are necessary. I think we've never cared enough about early childhood in our society as much as we have since the National Education Policy 2020. And before that, in 2013, when we had the first national ECCE policy. Of course, we've had the Integrated Child Development Services program for several decades, working for the most poor and the marginalized and giving access to comprehensive care and education. But the national education policy has really kind of brought ECC in the fore, and we're looking at the foundational stage as a critical stage of development and learning and a schooling stage now. So while all the policy is in sync, the thrust, the economics, the policy, focus is all on these first 8 years. However, quality is something of a very, very clear concern. How many of us really have a qualification in early years or child development or education, right? Many of us enter the domain because of the interest of working with young children, or it is a good life stage to be in and work with children. It helps many of us balance our family and work lives. But when we look at professionally developed individuals, how many of us really kind of are prepared to work in the domain. So quality domain knowledge is a concern, and it is the next 10 years when this focus 2030 is something that 2030, and having all our children literate, all our children developed optimally, are actually reaching grade level proficiency, right? Those are our 2030 goals, and that's something that we really need to work and prepare towards. One of the things that goes hand in hand with this policy thrust is that we still continue to be an unregulated space. Unlike many countries where there is specific licensing for teachers that happens, very proper recruitment, and there is a professional cadre of preschool teachers, we don't necessarily have that system in place yet in our country, and quality and accreditation mechanisms. Therefore, while there is a need for trained professionals, while there is a need for in-service development of professionals, we do not necessarily have the pool of people who can support all of this, right? That's at the professional development. Similar gaps at the curriculum development level, and of course the material and resources that we need to engage children, right? So importance of early years is something that is that we, I mean, how much ever we say is less. It is absolutely critical, and if this is the time to really invest in this.
So Kinnari, in some sense, so that's one of the reasons why the focus in the university on this domain, right? In terms of also ensuring that we provide as much of a platform as possible to enable these professionals and their development.
Absolutely, yeah. So those who want to begin their journeys in ECC, and young people wondering where is it that today one should get into, and if children and their well-being is of interest, a full-time masters, right? Those of them who are wondering that yes, I can work with children, but I still don't have the conceptual base and the depth needed, some of our diploma programs may be excellent for working professionals. So yes, as a university, we strive to offer and provide this relevant programs for different individuals and professionals at different stages of their work. Again, to come back to our work in ECC itself, the Azim Premji Foundation has, as you know, many of you know that it is a large, one of the largest philanthropic organizations in our country today, focuses on many development domains through the field institutes in about 58 to 60 districts across the country. There has been extensive work in education and now in early childhood education going on. We started from a small district in Telangana, and now this work spreads through all the districts where the foundation works. The curriculum, right, for several states, and I can name a few, be it Puducherry or Telangana or Madhya Pradesh or Mizoram, we as faculty and field members of the foundation help and support state departments in developing these curricula and training modules. We've been offering courses at the university within our Masters in Education program. So this is a 2-year full-time program, which now runs both in Bhopal and Bangalore campus. And since 2013, we've always seen early years as a part of larger educational endeavor, and we've been offering a set of courses within that. It's this changing times and the need on the ground that we now launch a full-fledged MA ECC program here in our Bangalore campus. We have a very lovely early childhood care and education resource center that has got set up at our campus, a very vibrant space where several of our students and others get to engage with material ideas and work further on that. Like I mentioned, for working professionals, we have a postgraduate diploma in several domains, inclusive education, learning disabilities, and the PG diploma in early childhood education, right? So that's a focused one on educational component for young children.
If we can just go back to that. So the one that we have for working professionals, the postgraduate diploma, is in the hybrid mode.
Yes.
Unlike the new MA-ECC that we are offering, which is a full-time in-person or offline, because it's a
Correct.
question that has come from Ram, whether it's an
Right.
online. So
That's
this
right.
postgraduate diploma is a hybrid. So there is a large component which is online and then a little bit which is face-to-face. But then our current MA-ECC is completely offline. It's an in-person full-time program.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are other questions which we also noted. Many of you asked. We will respond to it as we go.
Yes. So I now come to discussing the MA in ECC program, right? Now, this program, like I said, is very squarely focused on building this cadre of professionals and reflective professionals, right? Professionals who can think independently, autonomously for well-being of children. What we do through the program is develop these critical knowledge and skills through a lot of evidence-based practice, right? So the teaching at the university is oriented in both research and field practice, building theoretical perspectives. We have a certain what do you say, a certain epistemic way of going about understanding the domain and not going by a particular philosophy that we would like to focus on, right? So it is, as a master's program, we try to build that interdisciplinary perspective that really guides the domain, and across the world, you would see that high quality academia offers that independent worldview into looking at knowledge, skills, and dispositions that we need to develop as professionals. So implementing educational research and action, that's the field component of it, which we think is extremely critical. So this program has a substantial field component. Developing dispositions of care, sensitivity, inclusivity, and ethics, right? Now, this is easier said than done. Each of us carries with us several ideas, several perspectives, several biases, several worldviews. Now, when we look at working with young children from different socioeconomic background, how is it that we can work and help professionals develop these, right? So that's something at the core of the program, again, that we want to develop professionals who can really work with the required sensitivity, care, inclusivity, and ethics. Again, ethics is something that we in our country don't really understand and follow. We don't have, again, the professional standards require that professionals are trained with a certain ethical perspective on working with children. That's something that we really wish to build in this program. And finally,
before you go
yeah.
into the curricular aspects, are you going to cover a little more about this practicum or the practice oriented part?
Yes. Yes.
You would
yes.
be doing that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just take the group through that. And a community of learners. I mean, the alumni group that we finally build, and on campus, what we try to strive to build is this group that really knows how to work on their development and continue to do that, right? Like Rishi mentioned, I think before I get into the key curricular considerations, which are this focus on young child, the care of the child, what is education, what is care, what is this continuum we keep talking about, in terms of curriculum, in terms of development, in terms of education, aspects of early intervention, inclusion, diversity, and then research and practice, right? So they are at the core what formulates the way we've looked at the program. Here is the program detail, but I think what I will first focus on is this very critical and exciting field component. The way we look at this is that we have divided our 2 years into 3 critical field immersion components. We have the first component, which will run in the first semester along with the core courses, right? It's I would think, a very unique model, which you see in many professional programs, right? That you are working or at a site and you are also coming and doing your theoretical work. So that's a model that we are trying to work for this particular program. And the first semester, 2 days a week for about 12 to 13 weeks is when local early childhood sites would be explored by students for a longer period of time, right? And we are thankful to many of our local partners who really invite as well as contribute to this learning of our students across programs, and especially the MA in education and the early childhood education development programs, right? So we have a very rich relationship with many of our partner schools here, partner organizations here in Bangalore, and we leverage on that for this particular field practice. Field immersion 2 is where a very hands-on and a focused work with young children is what we are imagining, which will happen at the end of the second semester. And finally, the field immersion 3, which is not visible for some reason on my slide here in this box right now, is a long, about 10 to 12 week field immersion, where a student can choose between a research track. So those of them who really wish to pursue research, further studies, they can choose a research track, pathway. And those who are keen to kind of really work in an organizational setup and choose an internship model, right? A work internship model. That's something that they can do in at the end of the third semester. So it's a longish, very guided field practice where students would be directed towards, quality engagement on the ground. First, learning. The first immersion is on learning, observing. Second immersion takes you deep into really working with children. And a third immersion is a very independent work, be it research or practice, right? Many of you may be interested in the broad structure of the program. A lot of information is available again on our website, and it is continuously being updated. So do keep checking on that. But you will see that the thrust on children, understanding children, both children who are typically developing and atypical developmental pathways that children experience. So what is that? Where is the theoretical basis for understanding young children development learning lie, right? So these two courses, a good 8 credit worth of weightage is on really understanding the developmental aspects of children. Then we understand the domain itself. We very tend to talk either education or care. We talk of safety or we talk of reading, writing, right? And we almost talk in binaries. But where are these continuities when we look at ECCE as a domain? What are those perspectives? What are those philosophical thought that have really guided all of this? So that's what the Foundations of ECCE course does. The policy systems program really helps look at the policy spectrum, and it is extremely huge. Our country, like you would have heard, I mean, if you hear Uma Madhavan or Sunisha Ahuja's talk, you will see that we have a very intersectoral nature, right? Health department helps with immunization. The ICDS, which is the Women and Child Development Department Ministry, will help with care and well-being of children, education of children. We'll have, the education department coming with the educational component in school and other spaces. So it's a very intersectoral nature of this domain in our country, very unique to our country. No, I must not say unique. I think many countries have this location somewhere else for early years and then move to school education. So we try to look at this in depth in this particular course on the system structures and the kind of programs that are there. Looking at childhoods, right? Now, one is a developing child, and where is this child developing? What are the contexts in which children are developing? So that's what our Childhoods in Context course really looks at. Many of you, again, are practitioners here, so this is not to be told, but care and education for young children, or care and development of young children, which is up to 3 years of age, it can be very distinct from 3 to 6 and then from 6 to 8 years of age, right? So a very focused course on early stimulation, health and well-being, which is for the birth to 3 years period, is something that is in the second semester. We offer that in the program. The research component,
that's also a 4 credit, like the development.
It is a 4 credit. Yes, right? Yes, so that is an intense course trying to again look at this multidisciplinarity aspect, looking at care of young children, family and young children. So a lot of that gets done in this course. Research perspective, right, which we said is central to the way of building this autonomous thought and educational judgment. That's an introduction to research in ECCE. Play, building materials, caregivers and educators and their work, And then finally a bunch of courses on the curriculum and pedagogic aspects, right? The general principles and very specifically for foundational stage years, language, literacy, mathematics, and science, and socio-emotional learning. So there are a bunch of these courses that we hope will provide a reasonable depth as well as breadth as core courses in the program.
So
Um,
very quickly, Kinnari, on
yes,
because we
uh,
we work on a credit structure, right? And
correct.
so each credit would
Hmm,
be an equivalence of 15 hours of teaching, right?
correct.
15
Yeah,
hours of in-person interaction, and that is
yeah,
really how we are looking at which course is what weightage in terms of the credit, right? So
correct.
those which have 4
Absolutely.
credit versus those which have 3 would
Hmm,
have a greater engagement.
right. Yes, very much. And that also shows the breadth and the depth required for training our students. So, yes, our credits in that sense represent a lot of things in terms of uh, the importance or the significance of that course and the amount of.
So if you can just go
Uh,
back to that slide. So
mm,
we
mm,
have
mm,
we have a set of
mm,
core courses which are
mm,
12 in number,
mm,
right, adding
mm.
up to a certain number of credits, and then we
No, they
also
are
have a
actually 13 and then a professional one, 14. Somehow
14,
I don't know why
okay,
the screen is not showing the table
okay,
fully. Mm,
yeah.
mm, mm,
So we have 14, which would be the
mm,
core courses, right, which
mm.
all students
Yeah.
would take. But then we
Mm.
also have a long list of put elective courses. I mean, right now, of course, in the
Yes.
slide we have them as indicative. So these are
Yeah.
again for students who want to kind of pursue certain aspects further, right, or pick a
Yeah.
certain niche area which they want to really further equip themselves with. And so there are these electives that would be part of the program as well.
Yes, very much. And those will really be extensions of this core knowledge that we have built in the first 3 semesters. And then looking at leadership evaluation or looking at entrepreneurship in ECC or family community and media. We are very excited with the media course that we are currently, working towards in the current context. What is relevant media? How do you work with technology and offer it to parents, is something that that particular course would look at. So yeah, I mean, a bunch of core essential and a bunch of electives that would be on offer. Yeah. And
So you had
finally,
the
yeah, I
question.
mean, the career options. I mean, again, to this group that has joined today, many of you, maybe educators or leaders in the space, material developers. But we see this as something opening up a range of areas and entrepreneurship, not just as setting up a early year center or a set of toys and kits that are available, but it could be on a range of things. I think as the market understands, and if we really start caring for children, everything, I mean, right from toys to technology to playgrounds to a range of things where a lot of work needs to happen from the children's perspective and not necessarily from market and for profit
Market.
perspective, right? So yes, how do we build that sensitivity and sensitive professionals? That's our hope, that we will have trained informed professionals on the ground, working in all of these areas, and of course at the level of policy advocacy research, given the current trend and emphasis at the national level on early years, that again is a critical area that we would really need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
then
we are
this
hoping and
requirement
quite
to the,
excited.
yeah,
Huh.
this this shift that is required, I mean, that's the
Hmm.
important thing here, right?
Hmm.
So for instance, even when you look at toys for
Hmm.
early years learning spaces, right, there
Hmm.
is a shift that is required from what you otherwise generally get in the market. Of course you
Yeah.
have some earlier educators themselves who have engaged with that and come up with wonderful learning material so far, but then it's far and few in between. Not everybody has access. So if we are
Yeah.
to really make the space meaningful for
Hmm.
our very young children, then there is a shift at multiple levels: material development, the toys that are required, and as you were saying, all the other things which would align to all the shifts that have happened over the last decade in the policies.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And similarly, the food market, right? The nutrition market. Now, I mean, our advertisements, they lure children and parents into something that is completely unhealthy, right? Now, where are those informed communicators, stories, right? I mean, wonderful work many organizations are doing, but are they going into the mainstream? Are they really being explored? So, yeah, I think the hope is that we would be able to unpack, open up, provide many avenues for students to explore, and go out on the field and make that little difference required. So like I was sharing at the beginning, that the Azim Premji University is a good almost 14 years old. Our first campus was at Bangalore, where Rishi and I work. Our second campus is in Bhopal, and education for social change is its vision that we really work towards. To contribute to the realization of a just, equitable, humane, and sustainable society. That's the vision of Azim Premji Foundation that really guides a lot of work that the university also takes up. Several postgraduate, undergraduate programs, a large number of students across our campuses, and a very vibrant and rich faculty body. This is a little snapshot. Many of you may want to come. If you are in Bangalore or close to Bhopal, you may want to visit to explore our website. It has details of the programs that are offered at both campuses. And here is the
this is something that we've had questions on in the chat box, in terms of what is the criteria, who can join the MAECC program next year, because I think this year's admissions are closed, or do we still have a small window open? It's primarily
yes,
the CUET.
I mean those of them who have really written the CUET exams and are trying and are waiting for the results and want to apply to their choice of universities. This is the space, right? I mean, over the next few weeks, once the CUET scores come in, we would be still accepting applications across our programs for this. And we are accepting scores from both the 2024 CUET results and the 2025 CUET results. So you have cleared CUET, but you have not applied or did not want to get into a university last year, you still can kind of apply into the programs. The form is available on the website, right? The application form for CUET applicants is available. Our external application window is already closed. We've had a couple of rounds of admissions entrance and then the interviews. So we've closed on that, but the CUET process is still on, and that's a national process. It takes its time, and we are hoping that again there would be many of them listening or get inspired by engaging with dialogues such as these, and may really consider applying for socially relevant master's programs. And this is for any undergraduate, right? You may be an engineer, you may have done your MBBS, or you have done something in the social space, right? Or have an MBA or a BBA, but you want to change, you want to find more meaningful sector to invest your time, energy, and get qualified. This is the space. And of course, practitioners. I mean, our classrooms across our programs are extremely rich in terms of what students, especially those working professionals, bring into the classrooms from their experience and spaces.
Let me just reiterate that, Kinnari, because I think, for many of us, masters would mean to further look into the discipline that we have got a graduation degree in, right? So what you said here in terms of this master's program, like all our other master's program, is open to those who have an undergraduate qualification in any discipline. Yes. Right? As long as you have an undergraduate qualification, it's open, our master's program. In fact, it's true for all our master's program, not just the ECC, except economic masters, which requires an economics undergrad qualification. Other than that, all our master's programs at Azim Premji University is open to any undergraduate qualification.
Yes. And there is a question that says, is there an age limit? Not really. I mean, we've had students with extensive experience. Sometimes those who are really keen after their midlife crisis want to start their own organization. Some of them who have started have ideas and then they want to pursue and think and study systematically and then come back to their work. We've had a very diverse of both across our MA education and across our MA, other master's programs. So, yes, there is no real age limit to join as far as your interest is genuine. You clear some of these entrance requirements. It's a welcoming space to invest in learning.
Yeah. The one thing to keep in mind, I would say on that is that yes, I mean passion is what would probably drive all of us to do a master's, whatever age we may be at. In our master's programs, including what Kinnari just shared in terms of the ECC program, there is a lot of the practical element coming in. So there is going to be a lot of visits, and so it's not just a classroom environment.
Correct.
There would be
Yes.
travel to the locations,
The
and then
field, yes.
the field, the 12-week field program that you spoke of, Kinnari,
Yes.
which would require a student to be spending time elsewhere beyond the campus, right?
Yeah.
So
yes, so it is an intensive program. It's a full-time program. It calls for more than full-time engagement, really. And therefore, yes, professionals already in the field who want to and have the time and space to invest, a full-time program really makes sense. Else, as working professionals, our diploma programs also are of very high quality, and that's something to explore, which you can work and study at the same time. Right? Yeah. Just to kind of say that, of course, the CUET applications are on. Classes begin in July, very soon. I mean, we're waiting for our first batch of students to come in. A hostel facility, our campus is a very modern campus, both at Bhopal and in Bangalore. We do have a lot of support available for our students, be it financial, English language, depending on the need. Yeah, and we encourage all of you to visit our website. Both the YouTube channel and our website are sources of knowledge and learning. A lot of publications are available on our websites for you to read and catch up, right? So it is a website meant for further learning, and of course, a lot of our program details are available there.
So there is, we'll take a few questions that had come earlier. Meanwhile, we have Sheikh asked, is there any percentage limit? If you could further detail out what do you mean by that, we will come to that. Meanwhile, there were questions that came in while Kinnari was talking about the program, the MAECC program. I think we had Mitali ask us about the nursery teachers training for 1.5 to 2 years old. And Kinnari, I don't think any of our speakers in the last episodes we've looked at this, but then anything that you'd like to share here, and if what is it that in our program, right, when we are looking at our MAECC that we are focusing on with regard to 1.5 to 2 years, that also would be interesting.
Yes. Yeah. So, Mitali, thank you for raising this question. And it's nice that you're saying that what is it that we need to learn to be able to work with really young children, right? We often feel that whatever we set for children, we can get them to do, and maybe eating, sleeping, and playing is all that is needed, right? And that's where a lot of our work, with children go on in even in formal spaces. But when we say teachers or educators and we are saying them as professionals on the ground, it does call for an understanding of child development. What are those milestones that we want children to achieve and work towards, help them become independent, help them learn their languages, social skills, problem solve, right? So a bunch of things that informed caregivers or informed parents, so to say, right, both are likely to enable a very enriching environment for children. And this is an area I think we should spend more time on with maybe specialists who are already working on the ground. And in the program, Rishi, as you mentioned, I think the continuum of care and education, right? What is it to be looking at children inside families, in creches, in formal spaces, and looking at development as a whole? So that is really at the core. And then how do we see the different age groups and their needs, and what are the kind of care and education environments that we can develop, right? And developmental orientation towards children and their needs is something that we will build, apart from, of course, the family engagement, early identification. What are those gaps, or what are those signs that we should be seeing in early years? So yes, that's an important question. Thank you. And I think we should spend more time on that at some point.
Yeah. The other question is, what is it that should be the ideal student teacher ratio uh, for kindergarten is the question. But then in the earlier space, what do you think has worked best? And from the policy perspective, I mean, be it the 2013 one, 2019, or even in the national education policy, we've not really spoken about a ratio for early year setting. But is there
Yeah.
anything that you have in mind?
So I think the smaller the groups and adult child ratio is ideal. However, in professional spaces, you need a certain group to work with. So very often we say that young children up to 3 years of age, there is a one caregiver association and maybe a couple of others for whom you are a second caregiver, right? And it's a small 3:1, 3:2 kind of a ratio that you follow. And this is for really young children. I'm talking like 6 months old. They come to daycares and creches, and they need to build that trust in the adult and their environment around. And there is the primary caregiver. Outside of home, there is a primary caregiver, and this is our caregiver at the center. So that's the kind of approach. As children grow 1.5 to 2 years of age, that may become 5:1, or and with a helper who is assisting him in their other training needs. And then as we go upper again, so that ratio keeps increasing in a certain way. But it is a thoughtful thing, of course, in terms of, and this is also resource intensive. So where creches in really rural poor areas, there are 15 children and 2 caregivers, and that's what we can, I mean, the system can afford. So there is nothing wrong if more community members are really coming, supporting, participating, and still that trust in caregiving is maintained well. In completely private autonomous spaces and very high fee paying environments, there may be a very different adult and child engagement that is possible. So
But
again,
if you
our
look at
system is wide.
yeah, the three to
Yeah.
six. I mean, if you look at that age band, what is it
Huh.
that you've seen has worked well in your experience?
Right. So see, policy recommends 1:2, 2:25, right? Where one is the main teacher and one is a helper. If you look at the 2013 policy, and something similar that you would see in the National Curriculum Framework for foundational stage and such. So there is that. I mean, there is, the ideal is a wrong word here, right? But there is
Good to
the
have.
ratio, a good to have ratio in terms of your finances and caregiving needs. And by 3 years, children are reasonably 3 to 4, they become independent, more and more independent, and learn to be in formal spaces, and therefore the kind of adult child engagement, right? So yeah, somebody has asked, do you suggest 6 months child admission? So this is referring to 6 months old children, and across our urban spaces and in factory settings, right, where there are children going to creches. Creches is a daycare center, right? And in those daycare centers, as per our laws, children from 6 months of age should have a caregiving facility. And in those facilities, what is the teacher pupil or caregiver pupil children ratio that we are talking about, right? So that's what Mr. Ram here is wondering, what is this 6-month child getting admitted? But there are young children in center based care, as we say, are there across urban, semi-urban, rural settings in our country, and there is a certain ratio that is a desirable ratio, right?
Uh, yeah.
Hmm.
Does the course include how to work into inclusion? Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
spoke about what is it that we are focusing. So I think that is also available on the website, our course
Absolutely.
list.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it gives a good
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sheikh has come back in terms of the percentage that they were asking is the graduation marks or graduation
Huh.
percentage as to is there a criteria, uh,
Right.
and is 55% what we're looking at.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, like I mentioned, that our programs are open for students across any disciplinary background. There is an entrance test, right? If you start your applications from October, November, when the applications open, there is an entrance test, and you take that. If you qualify for that, then all the next steps open up, right? In terms of interviews and admissions. So 55% as a merit criteria is not something that is very tightly held. It is the entrance test performance or your CUET scores that really matter, right? Yeah, I hope I answer
Yeah,
Sheikh's
and
question.
also we've just about
Yeah.
run out of time. I'm just going to touch upon a few points which you already covered earlier. There
Yeah.
is a question on the distance learning option. So very
Mm.
quickly, this master's in ECCE doesn't have a distance learning option. It is a full-time program at our campus in Bangalore. But then the distance learning option is available for a diploma in early childhood education. It's a ECE, right? The diploma, PGD, and so that diploma is a hybrid. So it's primarily distance learning, but then there is also a week of face to face, and all this information, how much of face to face, and any other details, you would be able to find on our website.
Yeah.
So before we close, the only way now for this year that you can enroll yourself into this program is if you have written CUET, right? CUET scores, the scores are yet to come, and so if you have written your CUET and the forms are already available on our website, you can fill those forms, and once the results, CUET results are out, you would know whether there is an offer from our side. But for those of you who come to know of this late, apologies for this year, but then we've just launched this year and we're going to continue doing this for many years. So you can look out for announcements for the next year's admissions. We start as early as October for an admission in the following year's July. So we have those early admissions. So in just a few months, you could actually start looking at potential admissions.
Yeah. And as a final urge and request, I think a lot of us here are early childhood professionals who had come to listen to Dr. Watts. However, you now know of our programs and our initiative. We would urge that you spread the word, encourage young people to make meaningful careers in ways that Rishi and I and many of you have really, working in this space. So, and we hope to see you again in our 11th webinar, where we hope that Dr. Watts will be definitely with us, right? So, thank you. It was a wonderful evening. Glad that all of us could make it here. Take care and see you all soon. Thank you.
See you, everyone. Take care.